Hello everyone. Today I would like to read an article about Bob Dylan. Okay, if you're a bright and ruthless teenager in a small town in the American Midwest, you may well have one desire, and that is to get out, to go somewhere else. Hibbing, Minnesota, in one such town. Uh, and Robert Bob Zimmerman was one such young man. Sorry. In 1959, at the age of 18, Zimmerman left Hibbing to study English at the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis. But formal studies were not his thing. Sorry, but was very much into folk music, and on campus and off it, Son became a popular performer at folk clubs and folk events. Zimmerman was a bit of a long name for a for a cool folk singer. So Bob adopted the name of the popular radical was poet Dylan Thomas, who had died 6 years previously. Robert Zimmerman became Bob Dylan. Being thought it was compared to Hibbing, Minneapolis was not the thriving cultural capital of the United States. We said our a year Bob had a dream out of university and made the two propose a career in music instead. It was a pretty big gamble. The terms folk singing and career rarely went together, and there were hardly a dozen successful folk singers in the USA. At the time, there was the Ain Wardi Kurt, the popular pop singer and the Foxy brother followed by Bob. Now, even as Bob Dylan has talent, had a particular musical style and a vision to go with it. From Minneapolis, Dylan made his way to the heart of the contemporary American folk music scene. Kravitz Felix in New York, raising the city by Courthouse in January 1961 with little money in his pocket and no clear career plan in his head. It was, however, the start of a new chapter in his life, and all of a sudden he began performing in local clubs, gained attention for his talent and energy style, performing in the concerts and bursts of Kravitz Felix playing both popular folk songs and some of their own composition. Dylan built up following his distinctive nasal voice and original lyrics attracted the attention of music critics and fellow musicians. And just over their month after they arrived in New York, an enthusiastic article in the New York Times by Robert Shelton helped launch Bob Dylan on the road to success. Within weeks, Columbia Records had signed him up for a recording contract. Dylan Dylan's first album, simply titled Bob Dylan, came out in March 1962 and included a mixture of traditional folk songs such as The House of the Rising Sun and couple of Dylan's own confession. The album was a success but just for a taste of what was to follow. It was Dylan's second album, The French Helen Bob Dylan, released in 1963, that really represents his unique genius as a songwriter. It came out at a point in time when JFK Kennedy was president of the USA. America was getting involved in Vietnam, and people were almost at the prospects of nuclear rush sound like blowing in the wind, and a hard rains kind of all thoughts on the developing issue of the day. The 1964 about album The Time They Are Clothing continue the thread with social conscious protest song that compare the mood of generation increasingly political by the civil rights movement, the Vietnam War and a youthful revolution against social conformity. Protest music was Thailand especially, and as the 60s war on the became the universal force of the young counterculture movement. It was in this role that the following year Dylan was billed as the top act at the July 8, 1965 Newport Folk Festival. The biggest annual folk event in the USA. At the time, there was a clear distinction between folk music using accession guitars and a new genre called rock and roll. Rock and roll. Sorry, or more generally pop music, which used newly introduced electric guitar. Newport was for folk fans, not rock and roll fans. So when Dylan broke with tradition and brought a backing group with electric guitars onto the stage to perform Vegas from a like a Rolling Stone in Cox's approach. Traditional folk fans cried territory and tried to boo him off stage, but the failed to confess. Okay, the audience should have known when to expect. As 3 months earlier, Dylan had already gone electric with his fifth album, Bring It All Back Home. Younger and more even fans like what they heard, and their hero crossover from traditional folk to a kind of folk rock was widely applauded. Featuring into new creative fields had become one of Dylan's hallmarks. However, Breaking was only the beginning of Dylan's creative evolution. His next album, Highway 61, revisiting will be hailed by many as his masterpiece, featuring some of the greatest letters ever written. They included the Momentous, the Leslie Row, almost 12, what is this? 12 minutes of lyrical modern source, Egypt's population were populated by Cam and Abel, Einstein, Ezra Pound, and other figures from a collective cultural. It was Thailand at his peak, the Thailand that 51 years later will be awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature. From 1965 to 1967, Bob Dylan was the most influential poet and singer in the world, rivaled only perhaps by John Lennon. In 1966, he undertook a massive world tour involving 47 concerts, the last two being in Paris and London. 2 months later, everything came to a halt, spending along a rural road in Woodstock, New York. Dylan was involved in a serious motorcycle accident. She was not killed in this. Within a year, he had returned to the recording studio, but Dylan has changed. There was still the same nasal voice, still the folk song, still the electric guitar, but the magic had gone. Since 1967, another 28 albums have followed, most regularly in 2020, 2020, and to this day, talent is still recognized and a great music, but as an icon, his time is well past. Maybe that's all for me. Thank you, everyone.